Hello everyone, I've got a recipe today that'll help you use up some of those delicious vegetables that are coming out of your garden, and I believe that your pickiest vegetable eater might even give this dish a thumbs up. Now I'm using a couple squash that have come out of my garden. This is about 3 squash, and I'm preparing this as if I'm feeding somebody that really doesn't like vegetables. So I've pulsed my squash in the food processor until it was kind of ground up. Not completely fine, not mush, but just not in big pieces or big chunks. If you don't have a picky eater, you can dice this. That'll be perfectly fine and delicious. I've also got 1 medium to small onion and 1 bell pepper that I've also pulsed in a food processor to dice it up. And when you do this in casseroles, it kind of helps the vegetables kind of just melt into the background. We're going to give this a little bit of a stir. And then I have about 5 slices of bacon that I cooked crispy and chopped or crumbled until it was fine. This will give your casserole kind of a nice smoky flavor. It'll kind of disguise those vegetables. And I've got a couple cups of cheese, so I'm going to use maybe about a cup and a half in here, and then we're going to reserve about a cup to a cup and a half for the topping later after it's cooked. I forgot to mention that the cheese is a blend of Colby Jack. You can do cheddar, Colby Jack, whatever your favorite cheese is. We're going to be adding a tablespoon of Lowry seasoned salt and a tablespoon of granulated garlic. If you have any kind of seasoned salt or like an all-purpose seasoning, that would work fine in this place if you don't specifically have Lowry's. And now we'll add our tablespoon of granulated garlic. Now, we're garlic loving people in this family, so if that seems like too much for you, you can always back off, add a teaspoon, and then once we finish, you can try it and see if it needs more. I'm going to sprinkle in about a teaspoon of onion powder in here also, or granulated onion, whichever you have. Kind of boost the onion flavor a little bit. Then finally, for our seasonings, I'm going to add a little bit of ground pepper, and you can do maybe about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon, just depending upon how much you like. Once we've added all of our seasonings, we're going to give this a mix, give it a good stir to kind of get everything combined, and then we're going to add breadcrumbs. I've got a couple cups of breadcrumbs, maybe about 3 cups of breadcrumbs. And this is great if you have leftover bread that's gone stale. You can dry it out. You can use store-bought. Whatever you want to do is fine. We're going to sprinkle just a little bit in, maybe a cup and a half, something like that, because you don't want it overwhelming in breadcrumbs. You kind of just want your vegetables and everything in there to have just a light coating on it. That way it'll absorb the moisture. Then we'll give it a taste before we put it in the oven to make sure everything is seasoned properly. So now we're going to put our squash casserole into a sprayed 9x13, and we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees. And you can mound it up pretty good in your pan because it will shrink down and kind of settle down as it cooks. We'll spread this out into a nice even layer. And then before placing it in the oven, we'll cover it with foil, and that'll kind of hold in your moisture and allow those breadcrumbs to soften. So into the oven for about 45 minutes. After about 45 minutes, you'll see that it's nice and steamy and your vegetables should be nice and soft. So we're going to take that remainder, maybe cup and a half of cheese, and if you like it really cheesy, you can pile on the cheese. That definitely will not hurt my feelings. So if I had a little more cheese shredded, I probably actually would have thrown a little bit more on there. And once we finish spreading out our cheese, we're going to add the remainder of our breadcrumbs, which is maybe about a cup to a cup and a half, over the top in an even layer. And this will give us a nice crunchy, cheesy crust on top of our casserole. After we get our breadcrumbs spread out, we're going to place our squash casserole back into the oven. This time it'll be uncovered, and we'll bake it for maybe about 30 minutes. You want to keep an eye on it and make sure that it's nice and brown. This casserole is really delicious, and I encourage you to play around with your seasonings, your cheeses. You can use crookneck squash, you can use zucchini, or a combination of the two. It's very versatile, and why I think your picky people might like it, because it tastes smoky like bacon and cheesy and crunchy like breadcrumbs, but this is not going to be a recipe that the squash is going to shine like the main star here. It takes a back seat. The vegetables, you can tell that they're there, but they kind of take a back seat in this recipe. If you want your squash or your zucchini to be more of the center star in this casserole, I would just cut it into bite-sized pieces, which is how I normally prepare this casserole. But really, either way, it's delicious, and I hope that you give it a try. I also wanted to say welcome to the new subscribers and to the people that have been here since the beginning. Thank you very much. For all of you, I appreciate all of your comments, likes, shares. I really am kind of a small potatoes channel, but I enjoy what I'm doing, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And I look forward to reading all of your comments. So I will see you guys in the next video very shortly. And thank you, and bye for now, guys.